All right, hello class. Today we are going to be learning about the beginning, middle, and ending events of a story. So each story, every book, every movie you'll ever watch has a beginning, a middle, and end. And we're going to talk about what that means and how to find that. So first, I want to do a quick review about the movie Frozen. Have you seen the movie Frozen?
Yes.
Do you like it?
I do like it.
Me too. It's a good one. So we're going to talk about what happens to Elsa in that movie. So on your whiteboard, I want you to draw what happened at the very beginning of the movie. So I want you to think the very start, what happened to Elsa, and draw just a quick picture to represent that.
Do you need to see it?
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect. Can you explain what's going on in your picture?
So this is Elsa as a kid shooting out ice, and it hits Anna.
Yes, so that definitely did happen at the beginning of the movie. Great job with that. So if you remember at the very beginning, that's when Elsa and Anna were little and she was still learning to control her powers, right? So it was an accident and Anna got hurt. Awesome. Can you draw a picture to represent what happened in the middle of the movie? So maybe think about when they start to get a little bit older, what happened? Oh, I love it. Can you tell me what's happening in your picture?
So Elsa runs away and she builds her giant ice castle and she lives in it.
Wow, that's beautiful. Great job. You're exactly right. In the middle of the movie, or in the middle of the story, Elsa got really upset and she ran away and built a huge ice castle. So that is a great representation. And lastly, can you draw a picture to represent the end of the movie? So think what happens at the very last before the movie is over. Oh, how sweet. That's awesome. Can you talk about what's happening?
So this is when Anna has a frozen heart and Elsa saves her and she thaws her frozen heart.
Oh, that is perfect. I love your picture. Great job. You're exactly right. At the very end of the movie, Anna had a frozen heart and she was almost dead. And then Elsa came and saved her because it was true love from her sister, right? So that was a great job. We talked about what happened at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the movie. Now I want you to think about that as we read our book today. So today we're going to read a new book called I Found a Frog. I am so excited for you to read this. I hope you haven't before because it's a really good book and I can't wait to see you read it for the first time. It has a surprise ending and I know you're going to love it. So after we're done reading, we're going to do a little bit of practice and then it'll be your turn to think about what happens at the beginning, middle, and end of the story. So I want you to think about that as we're reading. Remember, the beginning is the very start, the middle is what's next, and then the end is the very last of the movie. Of the book. All right, so you will complete a graphic organizer with a section for each event, the beginning, middle, and end, and you're going to draw a picture and write a sentence to explain what happened when we're done with this lesson. All right? You ready to read?
Yes.
Perfect. Let's pay close attention. So throughout this book, you're going to see events that happen at the beginning, middle, and end of the story. I want you to try to remember the plot of the story. So the plot is the big events that take place. It's like the main story of what's going on in the book without all the little details, right? And I want you to think about the sequence of the plot. So sequence means order. This is like what order the things happened in. So we're going to have beginning, middle, and end. So think about your plot in that way and what order that they happened as we read. All right, so pay close attention to the boy's pet fish because it's really important what happens. Okay, let me share my screen and I'll show you our book so you can look at the pictures. All right, can you see it?
I can.
Perfect. So, like I said, this book is called I Found a Frog. I want you to pay close attention to what happens to the boy's pet fish. I found a frog. So here we see a picture of an old man. So it says, even though I have grandchildren of my own, it seems like it was only yesterday when I returned home from school to find a frog in my bedroom. So that's it. Think about, why would there be a frog in his bedroom? We're going to read the story and find out. My mother just chuckled when I yelled out, I found a frog on my bed. Now, she knew that I would eventually find one, but she let me discover a wonder of nature that many people miss. So now we're looking to when this old man was a little boy. He's thinking back to his childhood. And you see the bed. So he says, I am glad she did. You see, a little earlier that spring when I was 6 years old, I saw some little black fish in a pond. Since I didn't have any pets, I went home and asked my mother if I could have one. So here you see a picture of the boy with his little fish in the pond. After we talked about my catching some of the fish I saw and the responsibility of having a pet, she agreed. So I want to pause right here and think, what do you think are the responsibilities of having a pet? What's something you have to do and keep up with?
You have to feed them.
Yes, very good. You have to make sure your pet eats, and you also have to give them water, right? Can you think of one more responsibility?
You have to clean up after them.
Yes, very good. So sometimes pets can make messes, and it's the responsibility of their owner to clean up after them. So we have to think about getting them food, water, cleaning up, and then giving them baths. And there's lots of responsibilities having a pet, right? Awesome. So what do you think would be the responsibilities of having a fish? Would you have to give it baths?
No.
No, we would just have to feed it and make sure we clean up after it. All right, so maybe this is why the mom agreed to let the boy have a fish, right? Because they're pretty easy pets. So here we see she said yes. She gave me a bowl, told me to go catch a few, and said that while I was out, she would prepare their new home. Off I went. Why do you think the boy needs a bowl to catch the fish?
Because he needs something to put them in.
Exactly. And what do fish need to survive?
Water.
Yes, very good. So the boy's mom knew this, so she gave him a bowl with water to go catch his fish in. There were so many that they were easy to catch. I filled the bowl and ran home. So if he filled the bowl, do you think that was a lot or a little bit of fish that he took home?
A lot.
You're exactly right. He had a lot of fish, yeah. When I got home, my mother had an old fish bowl filled with water sitting on the corner of my desk. She asked to see the fish, looked, and with a big smile said, tadpoles. Wow, you are in for a surprise. You know what tadpoles are?
They're baby frogs.
Yeah, very good. So is that a kind of fish?
Nope.
No, that's what the boy's going to find out. I asked what she meant, and she said that I would have to wait and see, but to watch my fish carefully. So why do you think she would tell him to watch his fish?
Because it's going to change. It's going to grow.
Yes, that's right. They're going to turn into frogs, right? They're not actually fish, they're tadpoles. Very good. After a few weeks, I noticed some were changing. Mom, I yelled with excitement. Come here, my fish are growing legs. She came into my room, looked, smiled, and told me to keep watching. After several weeks, there were more changes. Mom, I yelled with excitement. Come here, my fish are growing front legs, and their tail is going away. So if they're now starting to get front legs, what do you think they had first?
Back legs.
Exactly. Yeah, very good. She came into my room, looked, smiled, and told me to keep watching. A week or so later, when I got up, I was amazed. There were more changes. My fish didn't have tails, their legs were bigger, and they didn't look like the little black fish I had caught earlier in the spring. So what does this picture look like now?
They look like frogs.
Exactly. Very good. Not fish anymore. Mom, I yelled with excitement. Come here. My fish are really different. She came into my room, looked, smiled, and told me that a surprise was very close. What do you think the surprise could be?
They're gonna look more like frogs.
Yes, very good. He's finding out that his fish really aren't fish, right? That day, when I returned home from school, is when I yelled out, I found a frog on my bed. So how do you think the frog got there?
It jumped out of the tank.
Exactly. Yeah, very good. Surprise, yelled Mom. You watched a miracle right before your eyes. A fish changed into a frog. Do you know what the word miracle means?
Nope.
Perfect. So miracle is kind of like something crazy that doesn't seem possible, right? It's almost like magic. It's something that God does that we can't do. So it's almost like a magic trick that we can't even control. So the miracle in this story is that the little black fish turned into a frog, right? It's almost like magic. So that's what his mom was talking about. She said, you watched a miracle right before your eyes. A fish changed into a frog. Now I better catch him and take him and the other almost frogs back to the pond. I don't need 50 more surprises tomorrow morning. So what do you think the mom means by almost frogs?
So the other ones haven't completely turned into frogs yet.
That's right. They're still in the tank. They haven't jumped out yet, right? And what kind of surprises would she have tomorrow morning?
A bunch of frogs.
Exactly. Very good. She doesn't need 50 more surprises or 50 more frogs jumping around everywhere, right?
Right.
So she told him to take him back to the pond, and he said, off I went. And here we see the boy releasing his little pet fish that turned into frogs back to the pond where they belong. That's their home. All right, that's the end of the story. What do you think?
It was good.
Yeah, good. Okay, so we are going to keep on moving. Let's think about this. I remember during the very last part of the story, the boy found a frog on his bed. When did that happen in the story?
At the end.
That's right, at the very end. Good. So, do you think I should put this in the beginning section of my graphic organizer?
No.
No, that would be so silly. I'm putting it at the ending section. So let me show you what that looks like. So here we have a graphic organizer just like the one you'll work on. So if you see at the top, we have the section that says in the beginning. Next, we have a section that says in the middle. And last, this bottom one says in the end. So we have a section for the beginning, middle, and end of the story. So I want you to think about 3 events that happen in the story. One from the beginning, one from the middle, and one from the end, in that order, right? So we're talking about our plot in a sequence. So if the boy found a frog on his bed at the very end of the story, that needs to go in the ending section. So I'm going to write that here. The boy found a frog on his bed at the end of the story. Do you agree?
Yes.
Perfect. So that says, in the end, the boy found a frog on his bed. Now, I'm also going to add a picture to my graphic organizer. So you are going to do this too when it's your turn. You're going to write a sentence about what happened and add a picture. So I think I'm going to find a picture of a frog because the fish turned into a frog at the very end of the story and it was sitting on the boy's bed. So that's going to go right here at the end section. So in the end, the boy found a frog on his bed. Okay, so let's think. Let's keep going. I also remember in the story, the boy caught some little black fish. Which section do you think this belongs in? Let me think. The boy caught some little black fish. Oh, I know. That was at the very beginning of the story, at the start of the story. Do you agree?
Yes.
Yeah. So which section does that belong in? I think it needs to go in the beginning section. What do you think?
Yeah.
Perfect. So I'm going to write my sentence here. It says, in the beginning, the boy caught a bunch of little black fish. Remember, at the end of every sentence, we have a period. So in the beginning, the boy caught a bunch of little black fish. Now I'm also going to add a picture to my sentence, to my graphic organizer. What do you think I could add a picture of this time?
A black fish.
That's right, a blackfish, or what they really were. The boy thought they were little black fish. It was actually a tadpole, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's what tadpoles look like. They do look a lot like little tiny black fish, and they turn into frogs, and their tail goes away. All right, so that's going to go in my beginning section. All right, let's keep moving. Now, the only thing I have left to complete on my graphic organizer is the middle section. Let's think, what happened in the middle of the story? I remember, the little black fish turned into frogs. That's what happened. So I'm going to write that in my middle section and add a picture to go with it. So in the middle of the story, the little black fish turned into frogs. Now remember, for the sequence of our plot, that means that these need to be in the order that they actually happened. So let's go back and read our sentences and see if it makes sense in the right sequence. So first, the boy caught a bunch of little black fish. Then the little black fish turned into frogs. And then at the end, the boy found a frog on his bed. Do you think that's the right sequence?
Yes.
Yes, we did a great job. So now I'm going to add a picture of the little black fish turning into frogs. So here we can see it looks kind of crazy. It's still kind of like a fish. You see this little frog still has a tail, but he already has his legs and he's almost a frog ready to jump, right? So that's kind of what we were talking about at the very end of the story when the mom said, I don't need any more almost frogs in here, right? All right, perfect. My graphic organizer is complete. Now it's your turn. I want you to think about what happened in this story. Try to remember every little part. So with your groups, you're gonna get a set of picture cards that represent the story we just read. Let's see. I want you to put them in order. So think about the plot. These picture cards represent the plot. I want you to put them in the order or the sequence that they actually happened, okay? So it's your job to put them in the order the same way that it happened in the book. I want you to remember the parts of the story, think about what happened, and put them in that correct order. We're going to label them for 1, 2, 3, and 4. What happened next, okay?
Okay.
All right, so do you have any questions before we begin with that?
Nope.
Perfect. Let me go ahead and show you our picture cards. All right, so here, this represents the life cycle of a frog. So in your groups, you're going to watch a little video of the life cycle of a frog, which shows you how frogs start as like little black fish that are actually the tadpoles, and then they start to grow back legs, like in this picture, and then they start to grow front legs, and their tail starts to go away, and then they become a real frog. Okay, so I want you to think about that, the video we watched, and how it happened in the story, and we're going to place these picture cards into order. Okay, so let's think about this. We have 4 pictures down here at the bottom. Which one do you think would be the very beginning that represents the boy's little black fish?
The one on the end.
Yeah, way over here.
Right. Yeah, that
That's
one.
right. Yes, exactly. This one's going to be our number 1 because it's still number 1. We're going to cut it out and glue it right there. So that is when the boy caught the little black fish. It still looks like fish, right? It has a long tail and no legs. Okay? Let's think about which one do you think happened next?
The first one.
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you think this one would be our number 2?
Yeah.
Yes. This one would be our number 2. Can you think why?
What was that?
Sorry. This one is our number 2. That came next. Can you explain why? Like, what's the difference from number 1?
It's got back legs.
That's right. And if you remember, we talked about in our story, the little fish grew back legs, and then what did they grow?
Front legs.
That's right. And then their tails started to go away. So which one of these pictures represents that next stage when they grew front legs and their tails went away?
The second one.
This one here?
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Exactly. So this is going to be our number 3. 3 comes after 2. Okay, so when you cut it out and glue it, it's going to go right there. And that's the next stage when the tadpoles have back legs, front legs, and their tails are starting to go away. They're almost frogs, right? And then that leaves us with just one more, and this is a full-grown frog. Do you think he can?
You said that one more time.
Do you think he can jump?
Yeah, he can jump for sure.
Yeah, now he has long front legs and back legs and no more tail that's slowing him down. And he is a full-grown frog like the one that jumped out of the fishbowl, right? So here we have our order. This is our first, this is our second, this is our third, and this is our fourth. That represents what happened in the book and the life cycle of a frog, which you're going to learn about in your video. All right, now it's your turn. I want you to think of your favorite events that happened in the beginning, middle, and end of the story. So you can talk about whatever happened in the story that you like as long as it's in the correct sequence or order, right? You're going to write a sentence and draw a picture for each section on your graphic organizer, just like I did. Remember that this is independent work, so you should do it by yourself and no cheating. Are there any questions before we begin? Perfect. All right, the end.
Oh my gosh, that was good.
Thanks. Thank you. I feel like the materials maybe could have used some improvement, but it works.
Listen, I'm impressed that we got through that in one take each.
I know.
I remember doing this with Abby last semester. Alrighty, so that was so good. Like, it went so good. I loved, you were very explicit, you were very direct, you, like, this is what we're doing, this is how you do it. It was all very clear, very laid out. You defined things perfectly, like, never left me wondering what the big word was that you were saying. I had something else. The questions during the reading was really, really good. Like, I kept remembering things like, oh, yes, Miss Macy talked about this. So, like, I remember that happened, and it happened in this order. The only thing I would say, constructive wise, which this isn't really even your fault, but like online, the pointing out, like, this is the first stage of the tadpole, this is the second stage, that could get confusing with children. Like, right. With me, it was fine, but and hopefully we won't have to teach online, but that was the only thing that I would change.
Awesome.
But, yes, that was so good.
Oh, thank you.